Is this gonna be on your channel?
Yeah, it is.
That's probably a
We're
dumb
live now. I
question.
hit the button
Okay.
before I realized.
You good, bro. Um, yeah, if it's cool with you, I was gonna add this to my channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff like that. It's just cool, just extra content. So
Yeah.
you know how it goes.
Definitely.
So,
but I thought we could start off on your release catalog, because you have so many CDs to choose from. Like, you have, what is it, eight releases and 2 EPs. So what do you think would be a good starting point for someone just now discovering you out of all those albums?
it sounds typical, but I always say the latest record. But so every project I put out, I would say the first official album release was called "Wake Up, Wake Me Up When the World Ends," and that was kind of, I mean, really, that's kind of like your typical depression album or whatever. But then there's a couple songs I did for fun. So
Absolutely.
so right, and then after that was the first album I put out on an independent label, which was Muga Music at the time, and that was Do Not Disturb the Introvert. And
I love that one.
there was a friend of mine who told me, he's like, "Man, you're totally an introvert." I was just like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "I never heard that term before." And they said, "Well," and they described how I am and all that. And it was funny, is because I had wrote that and recorded that album. I just moved into the house I live in now, and I I had a studio, I had a recording studio business in my house. I just moved. I had one in my old house, and then I that continued there, and then I just reinstated that business probably about 6 months ago.
Right.
And so I made that album, and I didn't have a job other than that. That was paying my bills, and I was living relatively well. So it was winter time, and so that year, I think it was the end of 2014, if I'm correct. And so I had time to sit there and record, and then when the label started, I contributed that album to start to kick the label off with
Cool.
a album release, right? And then I didn't think about it, that the album kind of reflected that whole concept of kind of just kind of just locking yourself up at home and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
did that, and then Nihilist was, I had a friend of mine, a musician friend of mine, who died in a drunk driving accident, and my grandmother passed away. So that's kind of like a funeral album.
Yeah.
And then so I had that, and then Open Wounds was kind of another kind of like depression album or whatever. But that one was actually kind of rushed. That's not one of my favorite albums. There's a couple songs on there I do like, but when I look back, I particularly kind of felt like it could have been done better. But I did the kind of '90s hip hop thing. I added a couple skits, so there's some
Yeah.
comedy
Yeah.
in there, though. You know what I mean? I like to throw in
Hell
a
yeah.
little comedy, and there was a couple of my friends. There's a lot of inside jokes in there. So if you're not, if you don't know me and you don't know little inside jokes that we had, there was some like local music scene drama that went on, and I threw in a little like inside jokes pertaining to that. So if you're, it's kind of like Deadpool 3. If you're not in on the inside joke, you're lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
That's awesome.
I call it the Deadpool. Yeah, because my girlfriend, she doesn't. I took her to see Deadpool 3 because she wanted to see the whole Deadpool franchise, and she said I like Deadpool 2 the most, and I do too. But she said I felt like there were a lot of jokes in the third one that I was unaware of. and I had to explain everything to her. And I said, if you're not up, if you're not if you're not aware of what happened behind the scenes of Blade Trinity, if you didn't know that who was Tatum was originally offered to have his own Gambit movie. If you didn't know all this stuff, then a lot of those
Exactly.
jokes are just going to go right over your head. And as much and now she's more of a like she's more affiliated with like DC comics, like Batman and stuff like that. But like
Right.
if you're like if I told her is like I told her like don't take it to heart if you're not that deep comic book nerd that's been avidly watching everything that's been going on through Marvel Comics and then Fox Studio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be lost. And so I kind of so yeah, so a little of the comedy I threw in skits on Open Wounds. Like if you're not on with that, that's you won't catch a lot of that. And so I did that. Mood Swings was an EP I did. Um, that was another one. I had a music partner, and he did a lot of the recording. And then we had a falling out, literally like right as I released it. And
Right.
so there were a couple singles we did that I was kind of happy with, and then some I wasn't. And so but that is the first time I got to work with um I got to work with my guy Dan, who's from the UK. He runs Delta Bravo Graphics, and he does all my cover arts, a lot of my single arts. If I do a big show, he's the one doing the graphic design. He's fucking incredible.
I was gonna
And
ask.
so
That was one of my questions.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, we'll get to that. But that's when we first got to work together, and I met him through a social media management company that I was working with at the time. And I asked them about graphic design, and he goes, "Bro, you got to get with this guy called Dan Bailey." And then he's out of the UK, and then me and him been working ever since. And then during 2020, I had made primarily a mixtape called Stir.
Yeah.
And during the whole COVID pandemic and stuff like that, and I just figured, well, why not put that out? And I found out Bandcamp was doing 100% to artists. So and then they do that every Friday, from what I understand. I might be wrong. They might do it every other Friday, but I remember around that time they're offering that so that way artists could get 100% of their download money and stuff like that. And so I
Badass.
originally released, yeah, I released that through that, and then he made the cover art, and me and him stayed in very like good contact, and so we worked together on that, and then I later released that on all digital platforms. And then after that, I'm trying to think of what I did after 2020. Oh, Echo Chamber, which was another EP, and then Mosaic, who does music videos here, and Tulsa does a lot of videography work. Um, he was making beats, so I purchased the beats from him, so that way it was an EP, and you had one producer, and then
Yeah.
we did a few music videos, and that was my conception to him. Was like, it's kind of like you can make really good like videography film from a song in which you actually made the music.
That's amazing.
So
Yeah.
so that was my concept, and I had every feature on that EP was a front man from a band. So
Oh
I
yeah.
had my friend Brett from Wolf Ugly, who's kind of in a pop punk, you know, like a post hardcore band. And then I'm trying to remember every. I know my friend Tyler is from Shelter in Place. They're kind of like an alternative rock band. And then I'm trying to remember everybody's name and every feature on there. It's been so long. but I only had one rapper feature who was from a band called Freak Juice. They're actually a funk band. They do a lot. They're a funk band, but they do kind of the cover band thing too. I think
Nice.
Sleek Simpson is. I think yeah, Sleek, which he actually raps on the song, but and he raps in the band as their front vocalist. But they're not a rap band. They're really like a funk rock band. Like they've done Rage Against the Machine covers before. So
Oh yeah.
and they're yeah they're really well known here. And then I mean I don't want to feel like I left anybody out.
I could always add it later. I was gonna edit this
Yeah, I'm trying to
and
think of.
yeah.
Oh, oh man, I don't want to leave anybody out. I mean, off the top of my head, that's who's on. So I try to go a different way on that record, and so that's what I did on that. And then I think that was the last record I put on a label, and then after that, the label disbanded. So so I went back to self distribution,
That'd be Unholy Vibe
and then there
or
was yeah, yeah, good job, bro. I love, I love, I love the homework you did there.
absolutely.
Yeah, Unholy Vibe. Um, yeah, Unholy Vibes was I was base. I wasn't so much trying to do a horrorcore record. It was I just wanted to make a fun dark record and kind of do whatever. And and I had certain songs where I talk about certain things about the industry, the direction it was going, even the independent industry. I talked about, you know, labels and artists buying fake followers, fake
Yeah. Yeah.
whole concept is used to kind of manipulate the new generation. And I feel like, well, man, there's some real voices and some real talent out there that you guys are not being, subjected to. So
True.
so that was kind of my social commentary in there, but a lot of it was just kind of me having fun with just some dark, aggressive music, and so that was what Unholy Vibes was aiming for. And then I did Chasing Ghosts, and then that was kind of like more of like a sequel to it. So I kind of did that, but I had some more like singers and something more melodic stuff. I don't like to use the word commercial, but
Yeah.
just something where it doesn't feel like it's all like just raw underground stuff. Like it's something that people who like melody and catchy stuff can get into. And then
Your hooks
Intrusive
are sick,
Thoughts, which
man.
start. Oh, thank you. That's something I try to do because I feel like a lot of underground stuff like hooks don't get it as much like and I'm not the best at writing hooks. I'll be honest with you. And the reason why is just I can write verses all day, but I would say the last few years I've gotten more adjusted to doing hooks because I understand the importance of it. And
Yeah.
but that's the cool thing of me having friends who are vocally more talented than me that can give me like a nice like melodic hook, and we can make it. But also, the cool thing, good thing, one thing I do like about Chasing Ghosts and Unholy Vibes was having friends here locally in Tulsa who had a lot of talent. Um, you know what I mean? Who
Yeah,
and I
definitely.
kind of like showcasing them because I feel it's just like anybody. I feel like you have so much talent in your home city, and so many people outside of your city don't really get to experience them. So if you're able to get your music out there, you're able to get people that in your hometown that you was like, man, they have so much talent. But my main thing I did like about Unholy Vibes and Chasing Ghosts, outside of getting my hometown homies out there, Um, Getting to collab with people I looked up to. Um, I had a Scum and Insane Poetry on Holy Vibes, two different songs, and both heroes of mine, both people I look up to. So I liked having that. And then Chasing Ghosts, I had from GRE, Grim Reality Entertainment. I had Zodiac and then Mr. Doja, who I both think are fucking incredible. So those
Hell yeah.
are,
It's
yeah,
always amazing to be able to meet and collaborate with someone that you look up to. Just
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
but I actually,
absolutely.
what is it? There's a song on Intrusive Thoughts that Elephant in the Room. That hook gets stuck in my head frequently, actually, like since I've
Yeah,
listened to it.
hell
So
yeah,
yeah, just I love
yeah,
whenever a hook sinks its teeth in, you know?
absolutely, absolutely, man.
But you're gonna be touring a lot. You're gonna be touring in November 12th, or starting November 12th. You're gonna be on at Monkey Island in Oklahoma at the landing, and then you go to Iowa on the 13th, Missouri on the 14th, Kansas on the 15th, and the 16th. What is gonna happen then? I'm not sure if it's Kansas or if it's Oklahoma again.
Oh, the 16th is Owasso, Oklahoma,
It is Oklahoma?
at the district. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Just how does that take it out of you? Like, how what's the biggest challenge whenever it comes to touring like that? Because that's a solid.
Oh, setting everything up. Um, there are some financial, definitely the financials. Because you're saving up to make sure that you have everything taken care of. You got your gas, you got your rental van, you've got
Hotel.
hotel rooms, and definitely in this one we're doing two hotel rooms. I do a compared to most, I do a very small buy on fee for the openers. Because I and that's another thing is like I've heard like how much a lot of not saying local, but a lot of artists who will pay a deposit to do a tour because tour costs money. I know a lot of people are like kind of not crazy about the whole pay to play, which I don't really. Where it's just a contribution, and so really like my guys when I bring them on, they're really either paying for the gas or they're paying just for the hotel room, like their hotel room. And so so I keep it very minimal where it's very affordable and it's easy to kind of make your money back on your merch sales and stuff like that. So I think about that. I also like make it very like accommodating for them and stuff like that. So but yeah, as far as that, like getting the financials right is and then also saving up money where you can eat, have some drinks,
Yeah.
maybe buy souvenirs. So that way you're able to enjoy your time because I've toured broke before and I do not recommend it. It's no fun. It's absolutely no fun. And because then you're nervous and then you're counting every dollar you make at the merch table,
Oh, yeah.
every dollar you make from a ticket sale or a door sale. And it fills you with so much anxiety and then you're not able to enjoy your time and it's just not fun. So I spend a lot of the coming months working, saving, and then budgeting and for it. So that way I can enjoy the time. And because if you're not having fun, what are you doing it for?
True.
So you gotta have fun. So you gotta make sure you have like the money so you can relax, have a good time, and so forth. So as far as that, there's that. Also, just communicating with the promoters in each city. Some of those I kind of have to run the show as well. So you're communicating with the artists, shipping the tickets out to them. I make sure every local artist like makes a cut from their ticket sales, so they make money as well. The promoters, I like to do a cut with them because because especially they do a lot of work as far as getting the local artists like hyped, make sure they're out promoting, make sure that they're doing the best they can, and then and they're taking their time. And I can tell you from me being a promoter sometimes on certain shows, um, hard, good, honest, hardworking promoters get the shaft. It's the janky, like shady promoters that seem to always make out like a bandit.
Damn.
And so, you know what I mean? So to me, I make sure, because a lot of times when you're a promoter and you're bringing a tour package to town, more likely you're getting the shaft. I mean, I've done tours where I've booked tour packages here, and I would look at the contract, I'd look at the rider, and I'm sitting here like, okay, cool. Do I make something off of this, or am I just lucky to break it?
Yeah.
And you look at all the extra shit they're asking for, and I understand that when touring acts, they have their booking agency build up a contract so that way they take zero risk. I understand that and I respect that. And I'm working to, when I do tours, that I take as close to zero risk if entirely as possible, but I'm never comfortable knowing that somebody might go broke if the show if it doesn't hit that mark. So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more compassionate. I do want to make sure that, like, but I'm not asking a lot of these shows. I'm just getting at the door. There's a few places where they've actually paid me a guarantee. Now, realistically, I should be doing more shows for a guarantee, and I would definitely can tell you my blood pressure goes down when I get those shows. But I understand, but I'm very realistic to what I can bring and what works. So I don't know. I'm maybe I have a little bit more compassion on that because I've been on the other side of things.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I want to make it where a promoter takes our show, he doesn't feel like he's choosing whether to pay me or if he's going to be able to pay his mortgage. So I don't like that for anybody because I've been in that position. And so I feel like if more promoters and talent buyers are in that position where they have to make that decision, you're going to get less promoters. So you're going to get less quality tours coming through. And that hurts the fans that pay.
No, go for it, man.
I've been the artist, been the promoter. I work with venues. I have conversations with them. I talk to the fans, and there's a lot of fans that pay $50 for a great for artists that they follow and love to come
Absolutely.
through. Um, you know what I mean? So it's not always an issue of there's a lack of money with the fans. It's just like give us quality shows coming through. And at the same time, like you're gonna tours are gonna have a hard time coming through when promoters are being asked, "Hey, we need you to pay 5 grand for this," and the guy's looking at it, like, I'd have to pay $100 I had to charge $100 a ticket for me to bring this." So there's just and I've had conversations with booking agents where they're very reasonable and they just said, "Hey, we know if you're losing money, you're probably not going to take this artist next time it comes through."
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of details in this that the average person is not aware of. And I feel like my biggest thing is I feel, and this is not everyone will agree with this. I feel touring acts need to be more realistic on what markets is going to work for them. Arkansas, or Oklahoma. And so there's no point in people who want to be your talent buyer in Arkansas, Oklahoma to lose $600 because you might not be that big of a pool. And I just think there has to be you have to be willing to take a little less in those markets because it's not gonna help you if promoters are losing money, and then when a business loses money, they go out of business, and then you have less promoters, so you have less markets you're going to tour. And just some areas you just can't understand that might not. Now it might come down to that those markets are probably not worth touring in. but then there's certain fans that are missing out. So that's a tough scenario to be in.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, if you're in an area and then you're great in Kansas City, you know, Tulsa's only about like 4 hours away. So even if you're going to take like maybe a 300 or so pay cut to go to Tulsa for a 4 hour drive, I don't think it's that big a deal. I just think there just needs to be proper negotiation. And it sucks because there are markets that miss out on these great tours
Yeah.
because of these. I mean, as far as I know, conversation with everybody, but I see the contracts, I see the numbers, I see the amount of people come out, and trust me, I have plenty of promoter friends who are basically saying I gotta take a break from booking shows because now I don't know if my kids are gonna eat next week. So
Damn.
now I have to figure something out, and that's so it's just there has to be a level of compassion and understanding uh, to 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 continue to do this because we don't want to see more people go into poverty and then go out of business, and that hurts it for people on a humanity level, but it also hurts the music business because that makes it hard for your booking agent to make a tour happen. When they just can't get people saying, "Bro, I don't have the budget for that." So
Yeah.
anyway, that's yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so here's a weird one. If you were allowed only one CD, one movie, and one book, what would they be?
That's a good question. Okay, so one CD, one movie, and one book.
Yep. You could throw a show in there
Okay.
too if you'd like.
Oh, I will. Okay, so okay, I'll try to do that in order. So one CD, one movie, one book, and then one show.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I'll chop this into personal experience. So one CD. Okay, the CD part might be hard because there's so many good ones. Can I pick more than one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You can
All
pick
right.
top three.
Okay, cool. That'll make it a little easier because
Yeah.
chopping in
It's a
just one
tricky
is the
one
tough
for me.
part.
My shelves are filled with movies and CDs and the seasons.
Yeah, man. One CD, man. I'll I'll probably one CD. I'd have to go, and this kind of goes in. Well, I'll pick two CDs, maybe three. Okay, so this takes up into just upbringing, like what I came up on. The Mortal Kombat soundtrack from 1995 because that got me into heavy metal and got me appreciating like music score. So the Mortal Kombat soundtrack I discovered KMFDM, Gravity Kills, and then the music score is just incredible. So
That's a
so
good
yeah, I'll
one.
give Mortal Kombat. And I remember listening to it on my mom's stereo when I was a kid. It was just like you couldn't you literally she could give me a $500 allowance a week and I wouldn't turn that
Just blown away by it.
it was
Yeah.
that's yeah. Oh yeah. I was just like, what is this? That's what I like about music when you discover new music is you're like, what is this? How can I
Yeah.
find more of this? That I'll give Eminem, Marshall Mathers. I remember just just refusing to turn that CD off. So and then the third one I would give to might be unpopular to some people. I would say Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit. Um, I know in some ways that's like unpopular because it's such as like big produced, but
Everyone's like,
just
say
that's
bleach.
just my generate. Yeah, that's just yeah, say Bleach, right? But no, I just it's a very well
It's a good
polished
one.
produced album. It is. And it's just and to me like I was kind of late to the Nirvana train because when I first heard it, I just was like, what the fuck is this? I'd wake up, I'd be watching MTV. I was like 14, 15 years old. And I'd wake up to the end of 10 of no, never mind. My bad. Never mind. It
Never
wasn't
mind. That
Smell Like Teen Spirit was the single.
is
No,
the
the album was
single.
called Nevermind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember seeing that, and then it just kept like kind of it just won over me. And I
Yeah.
called it Tina. It smells like Tina Spirit because that was the song that sold the that was the song that sold the record. So
Yeah. The one
it's
that they
funny
learned to
because I've had
despise.
people, yeah, and it's funny because that is I've heard people say, "Oh, my favorite Nirvana album is Smell Like Teen Spirit," but really the album was called Nevermind. I think it's crazy because that's the song that really sold the record. And then Come As You Are, and then Something in the Way, which the new Batman movie
Ooh.
did kind of a
Yeah.
remix on, which I actually thought was really sick. I actually like that the way they kind of added to that. So and it's just kind of it really just defined that era for a lot of us who grew up in that kind of like 90s or late 90s, early 2000s era.
Yeah.
So just the mood we have a very, so I don't know if you would call that Generation X or early millennial or whatever, but
My
like
wife and
every
I
time I
get into
listen,
it over that all the time, saying that yeah, I think it's Generation X because I remember there was that Aerosmith
yeah,
video game, Generation X, and I was obsessed
tell
with
you,
it.
I'll tell you, yeah, I'll tell you this. My girlfriend Bo Peep told me this. She said we're actually, because she she's a couple years younger than me, and she tells us we're technically zillennials. And so she
Yeah.
said, yeah, we're the end of Generation X, but we're the beginning of millennials. So they're, and I actually googled it, it's actually a real thing, zillennials.
Oh,
I hope I pronounced that right. So when you're kind of at the end of Generation X and you're in the beginning of millennials, you're actually somewhere slap down the middle.
there we
Because when you
go.
look up the years, like I was born in 1981, and so technically Generation X ended in like 1980, I think 1982, if I'm not correct, or am I correct? And I think like yeah, it ended 1980. I might be incorrect, but it's around there. Like it ended just right at my
Yeah.
right when I was born and stuff like that. So you're kind of like right there in the middle because I identify with Generation X, and just because I think of you know all the stuff when you talk about Gen X, a lot of the stuff that was popping, like you think about Corn, Slipknot, you think about
Yeah.
what's that one movie that came out, Face of Death, when that
Oh
came
yeah.
out, that was kind of
Like
part of it.
they're
It's
real,
just
man. You can't watch them. They're real.
yeah, yeah, and then some of it wasn't real.
That's not real.
So you had that, yeah, and then you have that, and but also it's just it feels weird to me to be told that you're a part of millennials. Like, okay, I never
Yeah.
ate a Tide Pod in my life, so I can't
Truly.
relate to that.
No.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd give my three CDs to them. Um, and then movies. Movies is tough. One I'll give to Pulp Fiction because I feel like I'll never see a movie like that ever again.
Yeah.
Bec- Even though there was a lot of influences from older cult films, just will there ever be a movie even slightly like that as a whole? So I think Pulp Fiction deserves that. Let's see, two. Candyman. I'll give it to Candyman. I actually rewatched that for the first time in quite some years, and that's such a impact. I don't know, it's an impactful
Yeah.
movie, and also just the fact that you kind of get that gore kind of when you least expect it. So it's not like you're
Yeah.
not getting this full on gore fest, but you're getting the kills right when you kind of least expect it. And just knowing what Tony what so he got $1,000 for every bee stung on
Yeah,
his tongue,
yeah. That's insane.
and he had like over 1,000 bee stung. So he
I do it.
despite what they paid him, yeah, despite what they paid him, he came out like, yeah, he came out with
Right.
some bread after that
That's
movie.
dedication.
Yeah, yeah, Candyman's yeah, it's a classic. Um, I'm gonna have to think hard on that one. You know what? to Halloween because it was such this low budget film that still to this day scares people, and it's still they're constantly trying to remake it, add sequels, like they're constantly trying to find a way that we can honor that film, but add to it. And it still hasn't like get on YouTube and watch all these horror movie critics, and they'll still put the first Halloween at the top.
True.
Put some of these sequels close to it, but it just still has it. So it's one of those top films. Um, I just I don't know. It's one of those you can't beat the original. And
Yeah,
so
I have the whole collection
and
on
even then,
VHS.
yeah. Okay, so books. I will tell you I think one of the best books I read just as an adult was Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I think it was Robert Kiyosaki who wrote it, and it hasn't been confirmed if it's a real story, but it's a really good concept. It's about a kid who grew up. His dad was a teacher, and he was relatively poor. And then his neighbor's kid was a dad who was an entrepreneur. He owned a restaurant. I think he owned all this real estate. And and so he kept asking his dad, "Is like, what why is he rich, not poor?" And he goes, "Well, your friend's dad's an entrepreneur and all that." And then they wouldn't talk about money. And so he would work for him, and he thought he was cheap because he was paying him like 4 cents an hour. And then he told him that the rich don't work for money; they work for assets. So he taught him, and so it's a really educating story if you kind of want to understand like different concepts on how to become better financially, and then it kind of breaks you out of the usual construct that we think in society on how we make money, and so it takes you out of that kind of employee mindset. It's kind of what the concept of the book. It's real
Nice.
educational. It's real eye opening. Um, I heard about it many times. And I finally read it. I thought that was good. Another book I read. It was on money. I read a lot of books on money. It's kind of hard for me to read other books. I will say, there was a book. Thinner by Stephen King.
Ooh, yeah.
I did. I remember reading that as a younger kid. Unfortunately, it's one of the Stephen King adapted movies that just didn't do the book justice. I
Yeah.
know. I know people will say that about everyone. I thought it was a good. And I thought The Shining was good. I don't give a fuck what
I
Stephen
know.
King says about Shining. I think it was
Really,
a
I
good movie.
enjoyed it.
I I think Stephen King is just narrow minded, knowing like, hey, I took your story and then I gave it my own spin, which is the whole point of making a movie. I
Yeah.
don't think it should be. And that's the thing that people don't understand about film is that, and they say that a lot about these biopic movies, like Straight Outta Compton and then The Dirt with the Motley Crue movie. And I tell people this is like, do you understand what it takes to like write a script based on a book or based on a real life event? It cannot be 100% accurate because if you read the book, then the movie is not going to be anything to you at all because it's like you've already read it. And even biopics, you cannot have the exact same movie that happened in real life. You have to like add something to it
Yeah.
because cinema, cinema, and real life are so different. Like cinema, you kind of have to exaggerate. You kind of have to add a little. Okay, this event happened. It didn't really happen. It works for the movie, and it's just I studied a lot about screenplay writing when I was like 13. So there was a
Nice.
lot that I kind of think about. Just the average person doesn't think about things like that. And they feel like, oh no, it's inaccurate. That's not what really happened. Fuck this movie. It's just like it's just like they don't want to be entertained and they don't,
I
it's
know.
just like, so that's kind of the thing about that. But I will say the Thinner movie was okay. It's slightly entertaining. Um, but it wasn't as good. And as stuff like The Shining and other movies that were adapted. I think The Shining is probably the best movie to come from from a Stephen King film. and that's just because Stanley Kubrick's a fucking genius.
Yeah, I have all
So
his on VHS
and I
and
can,
a hard case shell.
yeah,
So
hmm
yeah,
oh yeah, no, it's a great movie, and it just became iconic, and and so, but not only that, I feel like Stephen King didn't even understand what Kubrick was doing because he said, you know, Jack Nicholson was a psycho from the movie started, which I could kind of see that. But at the same time, like he was a recovering alcoholic who had abused his family before, and so he kind of already was like already the human being was kind of really unhinged. It just took him getting pushed to the edge to fully become that. He obviously had his own issues. He put his career above everything. And then I guess he thought the Wendy character was misogynistic and oh, she's the typical girl who's freaked out. I was like, okay, first of all, she's already kind of tense because she's married to somebody who had an alcohol problem, has like been physically abusive to the kid, probably to her as well. And then
yeah,
so she's even more tense when he's completely mentally over the edge. So it kind of like tells a story about a family where the father has his own demons to deal with, and unfortunately the family has encountered something that fucking tragic, and they're trying to move forward. So it's kind of like it's kind of like you're trying to move that behind you, but then when he engages with ghosts and actual demons, that's even worse, and to a point where they cannot avoid it, that they have to run away. So there's a lot more to that story that I think Stephen King was willing to admit. And
yeah,
so it kind of took the concept of ghosts and stuff like that. It took it to a more realistic. We live in a time where people are talking about things like that more. It's I think that film actually is a lot more like I would say probably more relevant
yeah.
because
A
now
lot more
people are talking
impactful.
about mental health, and they're talking about domestic violence and abuse within a family because it's something we used to throw curtains over. And like, oh,
Yeah,
it's not happening, and then now we're just like,
hmm
no, it's been happening. Talk about it. So I think it's kind of one of those things where over time people kind of see what the story really was pertaining to. So no, I think, but no, but I was Stephen King book as in my life I read was Thinner, and so I thought that book was really well done. I remember that I tried. What movie was it? Was it Salem? I'm trying to think of what Stephen King. I think it was The Stand. I had a hard time finishing the film, not the film, the movie. I'm trying to think. I think it was The Stand. I think I had a hard time finishing it because it was written so creepy.
yeah,
So there were books of his I couldn't even finish, but I was also a kid, so it's just like more of like,
yeah.
okay, I can't do this. This is too much.
I remember The
So there's
Stand
that.
whenever the demon or the devil was in the field, and that was the scene
Yeah,
for me where I was like, okay, okay, that's messing with my head. I need to sign out, and I actually
yeah. Uh, um, I'm trying to think. There are other books. I read so many books. I would say Goosebumps.
yeah,
I was in fifth grade. I got super into Goosebumps, and I remember the story about the dummy. And I remember we had like the tranquil not it wasn't really tranquilus, but it was like the dummy puppet. I can't remember what it's called, but I remember reading that. And when it ended, I was just like it kind of fucked me up for a little bit.
yeah. What was it? Night of the Living Dummy. I think that's what it was called.
I guess it's such a long time ago.
Yeah. My kids still read those. I have
Um,
the complete collection up to a point.
Nice,
So
nice. So so that's the books. What was the last one?
show.
Oh, shows. Man. Let me think. I'm trying to think of probably the best shows. Probably like I would say shows. I'll probably say shows I've attended. So I'll say as a music fan, which shows a there's a I'll give it 3. Getting to see Poison live at Rocklahoma, I liked a lot, and that's just because I missed out on that because granted I grew up in the '80s, but I was like a kid, so I didn't get to see Poison when they're kind of like in their prime. But I remember going to the first Rocklahoma and then seeing I think Poison. I think they played the first night. I don't know. It was kind of cool because you're around people who are your age when Poison was out and they were doing things. So it was kind of cool to see the band that was kind of like big years back, and they're still like right now they're probably old enough to be your parents,
Yeah,
and they're still kind of they put on a
still
great
kicking
show.
ass.
Like and yeah, so it was kind of a cool thing. And I remember seeing Brett Michaels as I guess he did a solo band. I saw him at the Hard Rock Casino in Tulsa, well, Catoosa to be honest. And then we're sitting waiting for them to get on, and I'm seeing his face on the guitar speakers or the guitar amps or whatever. I remember sitting there, and I was with my dad, and then I had a date with me at the time, and then I was thinking like, man, you got to be a huge narcissist to have your face on your on your like on
Yeah, that's
the amp of your band. It's like, oh, by the way, you can be my band, but I'm the face of the band.
you know you're here for
I mean,
me.
again, yeah, you're here for me. I pay you. We're not really a band. You work for me. So, but
Yeah.
it was still a good show. I mean, still put on a good show, even though like I already knew he had a hairpiece on, and there's still those splits he couldn't entirely do. But it was still like, okay, you're still doing it after all these years. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else. Hate Breed always put on a good show. I
Ah,
saw Hate Breed probably. I've probably seen them like 4 times,
nice.
and their vocalist as much as like his entire vocal strategy is just scream, scream, scream. And for him to like them to be able to do a 45-minute set and
Yeah.
him not to run out of breath or something like that, I think is that kind of endurance is impressive. So I'll give it to him. AFI is another good one. I think when Sing the Sorrow came out, and I always liked their old like when they were like horror punk. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly I'm a big horror fan, so obviously I'm gonna
Yeah,
like that.
same.
But Sing the Sorrow, well, Sing the Sorrow was kind of like the last album before they went super duper pop, and then I kind of lost interest. But they toured quite crazy. I remember Tulsa, Oklahoma City. I remember calling sick to work because I was gonna go to Oklahoma City and see them with like Bleeding Through, and they put on a magnificent show. And then they even played some of their old stuff, even though their new fans went quiet when they played their old stuff. It was
Like
a
you
little
listen
frustrating, but
anyway. Pay respects.
yeah,
Yeah.
really, you don't know their old stuff? Okay, you're those guys. Okay, but
Yeah.
no, I've never seen them, and I thought they were absolutely great. Like, I mean, Singer did like would do like a front flip into the crowd and then crowd surf.
Yeah.
I thought that was dope. And then um I'd say lastly, I'll give it to definitely gotta give it to Tech Nine. Every time I've seen him, it's just overall production, show, obviously vocal endurance. The dude can just rap
Uh-huh.
his ass off, and and then everybody he brings on tour is like phenomenal. Like I remember Stevie Stone doing some cool shit, and Seth's crew when they're together. Chris Calco's amazing as well. So yeah, so that's probably more like top four. But there's quite a
Yeah.
few shows I've seen that
Hell
were
yeah.
just phenomenal. Actually, I'll give a fifth one. I'll give it to R.A. the Rugged. I
Oh,
tell everybody.
RA.
I got to when he came to Tulsa. I think about it's been a few years. I'd probably say it was 3 years ago. I can't remember the exact, but he was coming through, and then I knew the venue owner, and I asked him about it. I had a few people hit me up. I was like, "Man, you should really get on that." And I said, "All right," hit him about it, and then he got me in contact with the tour manager, and then jumped on that, and great show. I wasn't sure like how big he was in Tulsa because a lot of these East Coast MCs, when they come to the Midwest, it's not really the same crowd wise. But yeah, there's about that had that name, so I was like, all right. And then there was some homies of mine who were actually bought on the tour. They had told me, hey, like we've already made our money back on our investment. Um, every show has been 200, 300 plus people
Damn.
and stuff like that. And so we just chat and talk. They talked about, yeah, we leave. We actually drive to the next town. We've been saving money on hotels and gas and um and then and so yeah, great turnout. And then I had a guy come up to me after my set and said, "Bro, I'm a trucker. I just came into town. I found already the Rugman was playing." And then he asked me how much my shirt was, so I sold a little bit of merch. A great fucking night. When R.A. the Rugged Man came on stage, and I'll never forget this because I still to this day I try to be at this level. His vocals live were almost like so perfect that it was almost like I know he doesn't lip sync. I know he doesn't rap on his vocals,
Yeah.
but it was almost hard to believe that he sounded that good because I know it's just the beat. I know it's just his vocals. And I went up to the sound guy because I knew him and I said, does he have any backing vocals on here? And he goes, he looked at the graph, he showed me, he goes, dude, this is all him. And I was just like, wow, like it's just because when you go on live, it's sometimes hard to like not be more hyped than you are. And it's very easy for us to like scream more when we're not meant to scream. And
Yeah.
so to be that contained, but it's just a fact. He's tall, and it just he had. It was. I just felt like I was watching a giant like rap his ass off for
Yeah,
like
he
an
is a
hour.
giant.
It was. He is. It was incredible. And the thing about it was is even though I like it prefer when artists are around the people. He was one of those people where I said, you know what, I give him a pass because I just don't think it would have the same impact if he was not if he was present before it's set, just for him to come out of nowhere and he had his jacket on, his hat, he just came out of nowhere, around the mic, and it's just it's like it's like him and Tech Nine, like, and I'll give some other artists that same like I'll give them that same uh pass, but it was just like I feel like he could not be seen till he goes on. I felt like it wouldn't have that same impact. So and I know he did like a meet and greet after the show, which was cool. But I feel like no, I feel like he should be Ghost until he goes on. I feel like him getting on stage would not have the same impact if he was just
Yeah.
there hanging out with people, drinking, something like that. So there's just so to him, I was just like, man, I'll give it to him. No, he needed to be Ghost until he went on.
Oh yeah.
So, but that was no, his set was incredible and vocally to me, like whenever I'm rehearsing for a show or a tour, I'm like, okay, I need to perform like Ari the Rugged Man. So I need to like
Yeah.
in some areas vocally tone it down where I'm not getting too high because it's got to be on point. I don't know, man. Like, yeah, dude has been considered a legend.
Yeah. He has so many good hits. Like there's the Taylor Swift song even worked. Like have you seen that? Yeah. But I had a stupid one too that I thought we could do like a rapid fire this or that. So I was thinking werewolf or vampire.
Yeah, you're cutting out just a
Yeah,
tad bit.
perfectly. Perfect timing to cut out. So chainsaw
Okay,
or
you're
shotgun?
back on.
Chainsaw or
I think I
shotgun?
lost you.
Yeah, there we go. Is it
All
working
right.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. What inspired you to first make music?
Inspired me to make music. Well, when I think I was really into Weird Al Yankovic, and I thought he was hilarious. So I did that. I did that just for fun. Um, I would say it was Corn, and then because when I discovered Corn, I remember I was super into them, and then I discovered Slipknot and then Mudvayne. For the longest time, I was into Tupac and Biggie, and
All
Cool
at
G
once,
Rap.
or were
So
you
I kind of
into
had that
metal
going on
first?
for a little bit. And um, it kind of depends. I know I was into like I know Coolio. I was super into when he came out, and so but then I know once I think when I was a teenager, once I just discovered Corn, just rabbit hole of all this other heavier music.
Yeah.
And then later I got into like Pantera and Metallica, and then I discovered Slayer and stuff like that. So I kind of went down that. I would say later, when I was in high school, I was into that. And I was into Tribe Called Quest, Wu Tang. So I went
Yeah.
found Posse and Twisted as well. Um, I know like Psycho and then Greg Malenko. But I was more of like a casual fan. I wasn't really into like the juggalo hip hop to an extent where I was a super fan. I just they were there and I kind of discovered them and then I knew they existed. So I was kind of more of a casual fan. But I was then I discovered Eminem, and then when he came out, and then I got into the whole Dr. Dre, exhibit. You go down the line of that. So so I don't know. It's a weird process of how I got into genres and artists and
Yeah.
bands and how that all went down. So you know what I mean. So um,
Which came first for you, the scream or rapping?
yeah. So the my senior year in high school, I got super into punk. I know Misfits still one of my favorite bands, and I got super into that. One of my best friends, he got me into that. Rancid, you know, um, man, I could go down the list. H2O, Fog Molly, all those guys, all those bands. And so I know when I came into high school, I said I was going to start a band, and so I did that for a little bit. And then when I started had enough was after I kind of did the band thing. I toured, learned the merchandise game, and then when that kind of all just kind of didn't work out, and then I started had enough in 2008, and then I just kind of operated the whole solo career, and uh, and so when I started had enough, I started going back. I started going back to the Dr. Dre records, the Eminem records,
Yeah.
Wu Tang, all the things I used to listen to, and then found new things. Like I found I started listening to Nas again and all that stuff, and then I started noticing. Then I started, and then I funny I discovered already the Rugged Man around that time, and then other East Coast MCs that I liked, and I started discovering all these overseas. I started noticing rappers in the UK and then in Germany and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
so I got more and more inspired by people who were just like exceptionally good at what they do. So yeah, that was kind of like my early influence.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
like Ren comes to mind when you say UK. So
Yeah,
like he's
yeah,
popping
yeah.
off right now. Dude, I think that's about all I have. Like, thanks for talking with me, man.
For sure,
It's
man.
been
Thank you.
awesome.
Mhm.
I'll do this, like I'll edit it down and I'll try to do little snippets and I'll upload those too. So hopefully they'll
Awesome.
be coming out soon. Thanks for chatting
Hell
with
yeah, bro.
me. I'll
Yeah,
talk
man.
to you
Appreciate
later.
it. All right, later.